Good morning.
Good morning.
Timothy, how are you?
Doing well, thank you.
Good. How's your weekend going?
Good weekend.
Long weekend. We have tomorrow off, kind of. It's Martin Luther King Day, so.
Yeah, and happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
Yeah.
A very important day in the United States.
So important. And I think one of a lot of reflection after the last year we had too. So
yes.
it'll be a good day. And beautiful weather
yes.
in Trinidad and Tobago. We're so lucky to be here. Anything interesting for you this weekend that you and your family did?
So since we arrived in mid-November and we got out of quarantine in early December, every weekend, my family and I, we try to go and visit different places, different cities, areas of Trinidad and Tobago. Okay, so good. We are planning to go to the beach because we haven't had a chance to go to the beach yet, or I should say, we haven't taken the opportunity to go to the beach. So today we want to go to the beach, but I think this is by demand by our son, Kenny, who's 10 years old. He wants to go to the beach, so that's what we'll do today.
All right, good job, Kenny. Congrats. You're going to Maracas, Las Cuevas? Where are you going?
I am not sure. It's either or. I'm not sure. So right. Sylvia, my wife Sylvia, she's the family social coordinator, so to speak. So right. She'll figure it out. We'll just make sure to get ready and go. But that's what we're looking forward to.
Okay, excellent. I hope you enjoy. It should be good. Make sure you get some bacon shark while you're up there.
Exactly, definitely. And everyone in the embassy has told me to do the same thing.
Yes. You have to. It's a must. Okay. Well, hello and happy Sunday, everyone out there. It's also not too late to wish you all a happy new year. So we do that as well. Wish you a lot of blessings for 2021. My name is Kate Denard Raymond, and I'm the Public Affairs Officer here at the U.S. Embassy in Port of Spain. It is my pleasure and my honor to welcome our Chargé d'Affaires, Shante Moore, to our Facebook family to talk to us and to talk about his views. As you know, with our Facebook Lives, we welcome questions from the audience. And so we would love to answer any questions that you have for Shante, for the mission. And so we'll be answering those as you put them into the chat. So please feel free. Chargé, this chat is to get to know you. This is to get to know what your goals are for your time here and what you would like to see achieved. So let's start by you telling us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So again, Happy New Year, everyone. My family and I are very honored and grateful to be in Trinidad and Tobago. It is a beautiful country, a blessed country, one of the most, modern, well-developed, countries from a, modern developed country from a, not institutional perspective, but it's just a well-developed country. The word escapes me. So happy to be here. So as Chargé d'Affaires, and my official title is Deputy Chief of Mission. So my goals are the following. So our first and foremost goal is to always support U.S. citizens and U.S. interests in Trinidad and Tobago. So when we have U.S. citizens living here, we want to make sure that we provide the necessary services and support that we can as an embassy. That's our first and foremost goal. Our second goal is to strengthen and sustain the good relations that we have with the government of Trinidad and Tobago, as well as with the Trinbagonian people. And sometimes, forgive me, because sometimes I kind of slip on Trinbagonian, but I think I'm getting the hang.
You're not the only one. Trinbagonian, yes.
Yeah. And thirdly, I think it's important that that we explain and share the activities and different types of engagements that we want to do, not only with the government of Trinidad and Tobago, but also with the Trinbagonian people, because we do have not only strong bilateral ties, but we have strong familial, cultural, educational ties. A lot of Trinbagonians work in the United States. They're part of our strong diaspora. Several Trinbagonians, go to the United States to seek medical care. We know a lot of Trinbagonians like to go to the United States for leisure and vacation. So for me, it's important that we continue to strengthen and improve those ties. That's part and parcel of our overall bilateral relationship.
Absolutely, I agree. As Public Affairs Officer, I think there's such richness here in terms of our ties, and that will help us not only, you know, from a foreign policy aspect, but also, you know, just people to people is essential for countries to thrive, for communities to really meet their potential. And so I definitely agree with you on that front. But tell us a little bit about you as a person. Where are you coming from? What was your previous assignment? Who are you here with? And what your background is in terms of career? Because I think the audience would love to know a little bit of who is behind the title of Chargé.
Sure. So I'm a 20-year, I have served in the U.S. Department of State's Foreign Service for 20 years. So I'm a 20-year career diplomat. My previous assignment is Barbados and Eastern Caribbean. So, you know, our embassy covered Barbados and the OACS countries. And it was a great honor to serve in that region because I learned a lot and it was my first experience in the Caribbean. So I believe my experience in Barbados and Eastern Caribbean will help me here in Trinidad and Tobago. I've served in other posts in the Western Hemisphere in the Americas, as well as I've had significant responsibilities and jobs in Washington. I'm married. My wife's name is Sylvia. We've been married since 2008. We have a 10-year-old son, Kenny, who was very happy to be here. When he first arrived, he did his research online about Trinidad and Tobago. So he learned about like all the different restaurants, cuisines, activities, historical sites that we can visit. So he is very keen to learn about Trinidad and Tobago, as well as Sylvia and I. Obviously, you know, respecting, you know, COVID-19 health protocols.
Yes, that's tough. But glad that he did his due diligence and he's ready to see Trinidad and Tobago as we all are. And so you talked a little bit about the goals that you have and that the mission has. But for those out there who aren't familiar with the term Chargé d'Affaires, with the term Deputy Chief of Mission or Chief of Mission, do these roles look the same around the world? What are some of the common things for a Chargé to be doing? And what are some of the unique things for you here in Trinidad and Tobago?
So the role of a Chargé d'Affaires is essentially, you know, I am the United States government's lead representative, lead diplomat in the country. So it's my responsibility to work with our embassy team to ensure that we sustain and improve our bilateral relationship in Trinidad and Tobago, as well as we try to, you know, cultivate and enhance our relationship with the people of Trinidad and Tobago. So that's really important. As I said, obviously, you know, our first responsibility is to support and help, you know, U.S. citizens here, to support their interests here, and you know, we do that through the consular section. You know, we do that through outreach. We do that to making sure that we are accessible as an embassy, because that's our job first and foremost. You know, an important part of my job is to make sure that I coordinate the work of all the different sections, agencies, departments that are represented here at the embassy, to make sure that we not only achieve our goals as an embassy, but also that I help them achieve their collective goals as a department, section, or agency. So because we obviously have overarching goals we want to accomplish as a diplomatic mission here, but there are also goals that, you know, each section, agency, department wants to accomplish. So my job is to make sure that we can do both, but in the spirit of, you know, collaboration, coordination, and making sure that we're all working on the same page and we're helping each other.
Awesome. And so a lot of those goals transcend administrations. And so I think we would be remiss if we didn't talk about, you know, what's looming ahead. Wednesday, January 20th is presidential inauguration. It's the coming in of the Biden-Harris administration. Do you think there are going to be any changes with the administration as it relates to foreign policy abroad or here in Trinidad and Tobago?
So obviously it's too early to tell, but I can say with great confidence that obviously sustaining and enhancing our bilateral relationship with Trinidad and Tobago, whether it's with the government or the Trinbagonian people, you know, will be our priority, as well as obviously making sure that, you know, we take care and support U.S. citizens and U.S. interests.
Awesome.
Those don't change.
Good. I'm sure a lot of people will be happy to hear that. Another elephant in the room, so to speak, or another, issue that we can't, not talk about in talking about inauguration are the events of January 6th, the attack on the Capitol. What are your thoughts? Where are you, and what are your insights on that day and how we move forward?
So January 6th for me is, has caused me to do a lot of introspection about the United States, but also at the same time, take pride in the United States democracy. So on the one hand, I was shocked, I was horrified, I was upset at what happened, because in a democracy, we try to ensure that we all can participate, that everyone has the right to participate, that that all our voices are held, and we hold each other accountable. And the attack on January 6th went against those principles. And it's unfortunate that our fellow U.S. citizens thought that that was appropriate to attack the U.S. Capitol because they disagree with the outcome of our U.S. presidential and congressional elections, which have been deemed free, fair, and transparent, by the courts, by the different secretaries of states in our different states. So that was unfortunate. However, I am proud of the American people. I am proud of our institutions that, despite the gross and unfortunate actions and violence that several of our citizens took on that day, I'm proud that our institutions held. I'm proud that, Congress certified, the votes in the Electoral College. I'm proud that, the Vice President, implemented his constitutional duty to oversee the certification process. I'm proud of, law enforcement and the police, that they are beginning to conduct investigations. And I'm also proud of the American people that they are also starting to reflect and think about what happened in our country, but also look deeper, like, okay, we have some serious issues that we need to look at. And, our democracy, we cannot take our democracy for granted, because I think that a lot of, despite, our democracy has been challenged, for a long time, whether it's been slavery, whether it's been slavery, and whether, the right to have people of African descent to fully participate, in the United States, whether it's been the women's suffrage movement, whether it's been the civil rights movement. We can even talk about what happened to, Japanese Americans during World War II. Our democracy has always been challenged, and we can't say that, our democracy has been perfect, but what we can say is that democracy is a work in progress. We do strive for a more perfect union, as stated in the Constitution. And, we do believe in liberty and justice for all, as when we, as we state when we give the Pledge of Allegiance. So we have a lot of work to do as a country. It's unfortunate what happened on January 6th, but I do believe that the United States, we are resilient. We will think about we will think about what happened. We will reflect. And, my hope is that we will figure out how we can, work together, as a country who believes in democracy. Democracy is the bedrock of our society, because we all have to understand that, we can't take democracy for granted, that we all need to participate. We all need to compromise. Democracy is about compromise. We're not going to no one's going to ever get everything that they want in a democracy, but we have to agree to compromise and continue to make, the passionate arguments about policy, about, budget, things that we talk about in democracy. But we also have to, be respectful of one another and hold each other accountable.
Absolutely. That's a great answer, very strong answer. Before I follow up, I want to make sure that our audience knows that, we're taking questions and we're happy to answer any that you have on what our Chargé has already mentioned, or any issues that are on your mind. But to that point, Chargé, I think, you raised a really good sort of image of democracy taking work. You know what I mean? Democracy not being a spectator sport. And I think in reflection of what happened on January 6th, and frankly, what you see here today, which is, you know, two Black Americans who, you know, perhaps 100 years ago was unfathomable that we would be representing our country abroad. And now here we are, and you know, running the mission, is an illustration of that point, right? You know, we work every day, and even though it takes time, and even though the perfection of our union doesn't happen on the timeline that we want, it's progress, right? And it takes time and it's slow. And I think that that's a really important point that you made, that we continue to reflect, we continue to try to do better, and we make progress one step at a time. One of the things that I think, in addition to self-reflection, we saw from January 6th, and that we always see around the world, is a lot of interest in what happens in the United States. And so with, you know, everyone watching the news and on social media talking about the events of January 6th as it relates to democracy, we also saw a lot of comments, you know, as it relates to human rights, as it relates to how you respond to protesters. There were a lot of comparisons between the Black Lives Matter protests that happened last year and the response to those at the Capitol this year. A lot of talk about, you know, what it looks like to engage in foreign policy advocacy abroad while we deal with these issues at home. What do you say to those that look and compare and say, well, I know you say democracy takes work, but look at these double standards, so to speak?
So I appreciate, you know, the comments, the commentary, the op-eds that I see here in Trinidad and Tobago and around the world, because the United States, we do hold ourselves to a higher standard when it comes to, you know, democracy, not only, you know, our democracy at home and abroad. And so when we do not uphold those standards, or when we fail at not upholding those standards, then, you know, then I think people, you know, do good to us to see, okay, United States, how are you going to respond? How are you going to deal with this? I mean, you mentioned the Black Lives Matter movement. You know, that last year was a very poignant moment in the history of the country, because again, it underlined not only two things. It underlined, you know, the issue of race in the United States, which hasn't gone away. I think it's fair to say that, you know, race has always been a challenge for our country since the founding of the country. Second, I think it really brought to light the challenges of relations between the police and African Americans, but also the police and other minority groups, right? And then it also brought to light, you know, the concerns about justice, right? Because all of us as U.S. citizens, especially those of us who have the honor and privilege to serve the United States, we take the oath of office. We recite the Pledge of Allegiance, right? And like I said, we do believe in liberty and justice for all. So when we fall short in those areas, I think the concerns and the constructive criticism, you know, whether raised, whether in Trinidad and Tobago and around the world, we have to be cognizant of that. I think we have to appreciate that, because, you know, some can see it as, you know, well, you know, it's unfair criticism of the United States, but no, I don't see it that way. I see it as, you know, I appreciate and respect, you know, the belief of the United States, you know, our belief in democracy, our leadership in democracy, and holding us to a higher standard, which not only hold ourselves, but, you know, other countries who also believe in democracy. So to me, I always take time to read, you know, the op-eds, to watch TV, to listen and learn, you know, whether it's here in Trinidad and Tobago and other countries, because like I said, we don't want to take our democracy for granted. It's a work in progress, but I also believe that we can learn from others about maybe different things that we can do to help, you know, improve our democracy and strengthen those institutions, to make sure that, you know, when we had these episodes that happened on January 6th, or when we had what happened with regards to, you know, the deaths of George Floyd or Breonna Taylor, that we can that we can critically, but hopefully constructively look at what we need to do, as a country to make sure that, we're working towards a more perfect union and we're working toward liberty and justice for all. But in addition, that we can help other countries do the same. And to me, that's important because I think of Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, which is tomorrow. And just to paraphrase what Dr. King said, and it's not the exact quote, but he basically said, I remember he said, a threat to justice here is a threat to justice here is a threat to justice anywhere. And I apologize, I'm not correctly stating the quote, but his point was that, when we don't do what we can to protect and defend justice for others, that's a threat to anyone around the world. So we have a collective responsibility as human beings, as humankind, to make sure that we defend the rights of all people. And I believe that the United States, we should still do that.
Thank you so much for that answer. I think it's a really solid answer, not only as Chargé, but I think as an American, it's important for us to hear that we're diplomats here, but we're American first. And I thank you so much for that, because it gives us a lot to reflect on and be inspired by. So we're going to shift gears. We're going to take it back to Trinidad and Tobago. You hit on some foreign policy goals that you'd like to see during your tenure here. And I'm wondering if you want to go into any of them in a little bit more detail. You talked about our security relationship with Trinidad and Tobago, which is strong. You talked about some of the goals and some of the challenges that we'd like to overcome when it comes to our economic relationship. And then you also touched on Venezuela. So for our viewers, and our Facebook family out there, any of those that you want to touch on in more granularity so they have an idea of what to expect when it comes to our policies?
Sure. Why don't we start with the Venezuela humanitarian and political crisis? Okay. So we obviously don't see eye to eye with the government of Trinidad and Tobago regarding, the genesis, of the crisis and figuring out how to resolve it. However, we do understand that Trinidad and Tobago has significant, security concerns regarding the crisis. And we also, recognize and applaud Trinidad and Tobago's humanitarianism to allow 16,000 plus Venezuelans to live and work here legally. And we know that has put significant, budgetary, strains and other types of demands on the country. And so we have provided over nearly $11.5 million of assistance to try to help Trinidad and Tobago with the Venezuelan refugee crisis here. And we would like to continue to do so. Because like I said, while we disagree on how to deal with that crisis, we do understand and we do recognize Trinidad and Tobago's humanitarian efforts in helping Venezuelans. And so we want to be able to help as best as we can in that area.
Okay.
With regards to the bilateral economic relationship, that's a very strong relationship that we want to continue to improve. So the United States represents about 40% of Trinidad and Tobago's imports, and we represent about 30% of its export market. And so we would like to continue to strengthen and develop that relationship because obviously economics, the economics, trade are critical components of our overall relationship. Through the Caribbean Basin Initiative, that allows Trinidad and Tobago products to go into the United States duty free. We believe this is a very important program, and so we want to make sure that Trinidad and Tobago can take advantage of that. Another area that we like to work with Trinidad and Tobago is improving the business climate. We believe that there are opportunities for U.S. business, exports, commerce to work or to, no, I don't say work, but to, but to engage, right? Engage from an economic standpoint in Trinidad and Tobago. I think, like I said, we realize that, some of the doing business indicators can be improved. And so we want to offer a helping hand to the government of Trinidad and Tobago to work in these areas. Because again, our economic relationship is really strong. And so we obviously want to continue to deepen our economic partnership, our trade relationship with Trinidad and Tobago.
Awesome. So as public affairs officer, I want to also put in a good word on our people-to-people exchanges, our people-to-people relationships, our educational exchanges, our professional exchanges. I think in addition to some of the policy stances that our Chargé just hit on, we have seen tremendous initiatives here in Trinidad and Tobago that we want to continue to support. We have some of the most brilliant minds going to study in the United States to contribute to the educational landscape there, but then also bring back some best practices and things that they've learned to help build up Trinidad and Tobago, which I definitely want to shout out. And then all of the budding entrepreneurs, all of the, STEM, enthusiasts out there. There's such dynamism here, and there's such energy. And I think in addition to all of the ways that we can partner on the policy level, there are countless ways and opportunities to partner on the people-to-people level, to build up civil society, to build up, entrepreneurship hub spaces. And so definitely wanted to put a shout out for those areas of partnership as well. And as we begin to wind down our conversation, I open the floor to you, Chargé. Is there anything else that you really want our Facebook family to know? Any last messages or any last points that you want to make to leave with our audience?
I would like the people of Trinidad and Tobago to know that the United States values the bilateral relationship that we have with the government and its people. Our ties are strong. Kenneth, as you mentioned, the contributions that Trimbagonians have made to the United States, whether it's in science, whether it's in education, politics. I saw a article this morning where a Trimbagonian, nurse, working in the United States was in Wisconsin, if I recall correctly, was honored as Nurse of the Year, I believe, in that state. And again, I may not have the information exactly right, but to me, that's just an example of the contributions that Trinidad and Tobago has made to the United States. And I also want to believe that, the United States, we have also, contributed to the development and well-being of Trinidad and Tobago. Again, not only from an economic perspective, not only from a security and law enforcement perspective, which are really strong, but also, as I said, our educational ties, our people-to-people ties. The fact that many Trimbagonians go to the United States to go on vacation, for leisure, seek medical care. Our ties are really strong, and so I want Trimbagonians to understand that we appreciate and we value that relationship. And my goal is to continue to enhance and expand on that relationship, because we are friends. We want to be strategic partners, and my goal over the next 3 years is to look for opportunities to continue to do that.
Wonderful. So we can't end our Facebook Live without talking about what you're most looking forward to in Trinidad and Tobago in your spare time. So we talked about bacon shark and maracas. What are some of the other things that you would like? Oh, we have a question. Sorry. Welcome to Trinidad and Tobago as a literary citizen. I hope you can enjoy Trinidad and Tobago's amazing culture, from our music to art to food to literature, landscape, our language, Trini English Creole, cultural and historical events, lots of positive and amazing things happening in Sweet TNT. Yes, correct, Anna. That's exactly what we were just going to say. From everything that Anna just mentioned, literary, culture, music, food, English Creole. What are some of the things that you're looking forward to in terms of pastimes in your time here, you and your family?
So what I would like to do is to just understand, the beautiful and impressive culture of Trinidad and Tobago. For me, it is amazing, to learn that, the amalgamation of the different cultures, ethnic backgrounds, religions of Trinidad and Tobago. So, I'm impressed when you have different, people of different backgrounds, who wish you a Merry Christmas. And even though, they may not be Christians, but they still do it. And I'm also impressed how, people in Trinidad and Tobago, celebrate, with full fervor, Diwali. And again, they may not be, Hindus, but they still celebrate it. I'm impressed how people come together, for Carnival. And I understand that everyone, no matter what your background is, comes together for Carnival. So that's what my family and I would like to do, just to learn more about how, Trinidad and Tobago has embraced and sustained, this very vibrant multicultural society. Because for me, it's impressive. I mean, we obviously come also from a multicultural society, but the way that, Trinbagonians have been able to accomplish its multiculturalism is impressive.
I agree. I think it's an example for the rest of the world, honestly, exactly what you mentioned, the shared culture and the appreciation for each other. This is truly a pluralistic society. I am so impressed and just in love with the way that people come together in love and appreciation for one another. And then, just from a more scientific standpoint, I was walking around the savannah yesterday and just looking at some of the trees. And I think in addition to the pluralism of the people, like the biodiversity here, you know what I mean? Yes. Just the many, plants, animals, and environmental sort of dynamism that exists here. It's absolutely beautiful country, absolutely beautiful people. I share your enthusiasm about learning these things. And so with that, I think we're going to wrap up this chat with the Chargé. Thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to having you on again to talk a little bit more about yourself and what you're doing here. But thank you again. And thank you to all our viewers out there for joining us this Sunday morning. Bye.